Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Mindful Steward podcast. Today I am having a conversation over Skype with Ashley Boone. She started a yoga studio a few years ago in Muskoka on her own, and she's a co-founder of the Muskoka Yoga Festival, and she's also involved in several different retreats and organizations all across North America. So she definitely has a lot of different insights to share and some pretty unique perspectives about a lot of different topics. The audio is a little bit strange. It was my first time recording a Skype call, but I think it turned out pretty good. So here it is. I hope you enjoy. I'm kind of pumped to have you on the podcast right now because it's honestly way more fun for me when I have people who I don't know, because when they kind of give me their responses, I have actual curious thoughts in my mind and I can kind of formulate just natural responses back. And I've noticed that when I interview my friends, I know the answer. So I just kind of give out this like generic question. And so this is kind of my goal, is to turn this podcast into a thing where I can just start reaching out to like strangers who I don't know at all and go from there and just start obviously getting better at conversations with people in a way where I'm trying to learn what they do and more about that. So yeah, thanks for, I guess, being a guest on this podcast. I guess you'll be guest number 6, and I've got a few more I'm actually doing this weekend, so it's going to be pretty busy. Yeah, so I guess I'll let you introduce yourself.
For sure. Well, thanks for the connection through a mutual friend that thought I would be legit enough to be on your podcast. My name is Ashley, and I have been an entrepreneur or self-employed or just doing my own thing since 2013. And I teach yoga. I ran a studio. I run retreats. I ran a big festival. And now I'm moving into whatever's next, but it's always along the line of entrepreneurship.
Cool. And what were you doing before 2000 or before you were 23? Were you at school or?
Yeah, so I'm partway through a degree. Lakehead University probably still was like waiting for me to come back. I was in a Bachelor of Arts in Science for Psychology and Biology.
Okay.
And I stopped it to open up my studio. And before Lakehead, I was at George Brown for art. And I did my yoga teacher training in 2011.
Okay, cool. So you've kind of bounced around between things a little bit.
A little bit. And what's funny is that they always come to support whatever I'm doing now. So the art and design helps me design posters and branding and logos, and have an eye for retail display and merchandising when I have my studio, or even the setup of the park when I have the festival. And then the psychology comes into interpersonal relationships, so I can talk to people freely and get to know them a little more in depth. And the biology helps just because I can teach to the body a bit more. I mean, I didn't really get fully into the biology part of the degree, but for the most part, a general understanding of, basic functions.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And what do you think, what do you think it was that drew you to entrepreneurship? Because I know the one thing I notice a lot of is that people who go to university, I think university is a good thing, but I think it really kind of programs the way that you look at things, and it kind of discounts entrepreneurship immediately for most people.
How does it discount?
I mean, it just doesn't promote it for many people.
Yeah.
I mean, even for myself, I studied business in school, and it was rarely, almost nothing I learned was really about how to run your own company or how to kind of take that leap of faith. It was all about how to have an office job and kind of do one specific task for a big corporation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I met someone, so I have an ex and he's wonderful. We met, April Fool's Day and we met at a yoga class and we just started talking. We hung out every day, and he's an entrepreneur of a magazine in Muskoka, and he started it from scratch mainly because he pitched this idea to an existing magazine and they declined it. So he said, well, screw it. I'm going to go start it myself. And so from there, he inspired me to get back to teaching. And then from experiencing my classes, he said, you should teach more often. You're a wonderful teacher. Like, it seems like you light up when you teach and you enjoy it and you gain energy from it. And So I said, okay, what can I do? There's no studio in Bracebridge. There was a very small in-home studio in Gravenhurst where I was living at the time with him. And he was like, well, you could start your own studio and I'll help you. And so from there, I just said yes to everything that he suggested, but mainly because I really wanted to teach. It was way better than going to class every day. And I was making money. And that summer, I ended that year of university. And then that summer I worked full time as a yoga teacher, which I didn't even think was possible. And I was getting a ton of calls, and he put my ad in his magazine, and his magazine is delivered to specific clientele throughout the lakes. And I was out on the docks teaching yoga, and it just kind of morphed one step into the next. And that September I opened the studio and somehow strung it together that people showed up, and I was teaching a ton of yoga. And
so I'm assuming if you're yeah, cool. So I'm assuming if you're in Muskoka, it's pretty quiet over the winter, and it's just super busy all summer because like people are just living up there basically.
Yeah, it's a good balance because there are shoulder seasons like spring and fall were slower from my recollection. And then summer was just nuts. Summer was like 5 classes a day, 7 days a week sometimes. And then in the winter, we get all of the local crowd back because they're out skiing or snowshoeing or doing those outdoor activities, but they can't do them for very long. So they come into the studio, and that's when we get into more workshops and maybe take them away on an international retreat or something like that. But we get the locals in the winter and the seasonal clientele throughout the summer.
Okay, that's really cool. So one thing, were you were the only owner of that studio, or were you a co-founder with someone else?
No, I started Zen Muskoka on my own, September 2013.
So my last episode was actually with my friend Lauren Ruddick, and I saw that you know her also. I'm assuming you probably met at the festival.
Yeah, we met actually at the Toronto Yoga Show this past March.
Oh, okay, cool. She was saying that she's going back there again, I remember. But she mentioned it to me many times before, and then I brought it up on the podcast because it seems like a pretty legit topic. But she was kind of talking about how she went to see a consultant for basically running your own yoga business or yoga studio, and that consultant kind of she wanted to shine a light on the fact that there's a lot of yoga instructors out there who kind of take this vow of poverty and just kind of voluntarily accept the fact that they don't make a lot of money through yoga. And it doesn't really have to be that way. I mean, it can be like any other business. If you're providing people a lot of value, then you're worth that value, you know? And it's interesting to talk to kind of yoga instructors who have a little bit of a different approach than that, because I know a lot of the people I know are just doing it. They're like students and they're just doing it part-time, and they don't see it as like a long-term thing. But I think it's something that you can make work if you take the right approach.
Yeah. I think it took me a while to get there, to get into that business mindset, to realize that I am worth, X amount of dollars for a class, a service. In the beginning, I was just so stoked that I could teach yoga and people wanted to come, and I would let a lot of people in for free, and friends were always coming. And if someone couldn't afford it, I let them in, which I think is also really great, just because that continues to offer the yoga spirit, and the essence of yoga is to be connected in community and to be kind and compassionate. If someone needs to practice and it gives back to them in a different way, I don't need money for that sometimes, but after some time I have bills and I have real Western life to handle, and my goals of further education or travel or even just living a particular lifestyle, I have to meet that. And so in different ways, I hosted, a yoga teacher training, people who are really interested in teaching, not even full time, but just interested in what it's like to lead yoga, gathered that. And that's, of course, a really great way to earn money. Retreats, taking people on vacation. There are these different branches of, the yoga business that can generate a lot of income, especially a studio. And you have to stop like volunteering your time after a certain point, because there is this repertoire of experience behind you. In the beginning, of course, I didn't have that experience, but say 2 to 3 years in, I, declared my price. And you have to, or you burn out.
Do you find that teaching yoga affected your own practice of it in a pretty significant way, or?
Well, I practice less, I think. I was a new teacher when I opened up the studio. I got my training in 2011, taught basically my stepfather for 2 years, and then started teaching full time. And when I started teaching full time, I was kind of demonstrating a lot and physically active in my classes, and which is really typical of a new instructor, to embody the practice, to show students when you can't quite articulate, you don't have that language just yet. So I was doing a lot of physical teaching, and I neglected a little bit of my own practice. I would say I got like one practice in a week. But now that I'm not teaching full time, it's every day. I step onto my mat or lie down on the carpet or stretch in a park somewhere after a hike. Like, I have to move my body or it doesn't feel right. When you're teaching 20 plus classes a week, you're moving your body every day, no matter what.
I found something pretty interesting. I mean, last week, something pretty interesting was told to me, and I basically went to my chiropractor, and I just started going to this guy. I don't really have any significant problems. I just kind of wanted to go in there and learn about the alignment of my body and whatnot. And it turns out I have a couple things on my left side that are just a little bit off, just because of injuries I've had in the past. And so he's like a full-on chiropractor, and he's giving me yoga exercises that I should be doing every day. And they've actually helped my posture and the little things that I kind of was hoping to start solving. It's actually already making a huge difference. So like, I personally have never really dove into yoga that much. I've probably gone to 20 classes in my entire life, but I think it's so neat how it's kind of branching into all these different areas of overall health. At least nowadays, I think just the awareness of it is really getting out there. For me personally, I think what yoga kind of preaches is that there's a lot more to health than just your physical frame and how you're treating that. It kind of brings in the whole holistic approach of taking care of your mind and kind of taking care of your thoughts and being aware of all that too. And I'm kind of curious, like, do you find that mindfulness is a really large purpose of your practice, or are you doing it more for the fitness side and the physical kind of athleticism, or whatever you want to call it?
Well, to touch on like the chiropractic help and the fact that yoga or movement is infiltrating a whole bunch of different, domains, be it chiropractic help or in a physician's office or being recommended by teachers to their students in schools. It's just because we have to direct our attention away from things that aren't natural. I think we've paid attention to a lot of things that are outside of ourselves, and after some time that creates misalignment, be it in us physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It'll create misalignment because we're simply not paying attention to ourselves as much as we should. We're paying attention to our very basic needs like food and sex and sleep and like staying warm and getting a little bit of exercise here and there. But to really turn inward and to look at ourselves from like, how am I feeling? Why is this shoulder lifted? Or why can't I sleep on a Sunday night instead of the Friday night? Like all of these very more intricate details of watching ourselves, it's coming up in much bigger ways for people. So that's why there's like a boom in wellness and mindfulness and nurturing, healing, holistic, alternative therapies rather than straight up, okay, let's take a pill, or okay, go divorce that person and you'll be fine. It's let's look at ourselves. So that quote of where attention goes, energy flows. I think it's really important to keep that in mind, to turn the mirror on ourselves more and more often. When it comes to mindfulness in my practice or mindfulness in my life, everything is mindfulness. Everything is, practice with mindfulness isn't separate from me. Mindfulness isn't a practice. I don't think that needs to be practiced. It's being in the moment if I'm painting or if I'm walking or if I'm about to go to sleep. It's to be in what I'm actually doing and experiencing it. So it's kind of more of a Zen philosophy of mindfulness, I assume, because Zen isn't explainable. It's just, you just are it. So when my mind really gets dragged into the past or like pushed way ahead into the future, and I'm starting to feel anxiety or worry or really regret something I said last week or whatever it is, it's like there is that thought, and then there's the moment that I catch myself having the thought. And then once I catch myself having the thought, then I'm back to being present. I'm back to being mindful. So mindfulness is always in every one of my practices. It is the practice, more so than calling it yoga, more so than calling it stretching. And if I get physical fitness from it, amazing, because I like to keep my body vital and able to live a long, healthy life and do the things I want to do, especially while I'm young and capable and have the time.
Cool. That was an awesome response. So I find it, do you believe in the law of attraction?
To a certain degree. I think there's a little bit of chaos in the universe, which is beautiful too.
So the first girl I actually interviewed, I should say first woman I actually interviewed, someone pointed that out to me. They're like, you call everyone a girl.
Do you call men boys too? Or do you call them like dudes or?
Yeah, I guess I call him a guy or a dude.
A guy, dude, yeah.
I know, I need more adult language. But she was really into the law of attraction, and she's a mindset coach. And truthfully, I had barely really dove into it until then, and I've just been obsessively listening to teachers about it. And I'm not one of those people who's just listening to like bullshit and kind of believing every word of it. I'm just trying to get every angle of it, and I find it really interesting because basically what it preaches is just like complete personal responsibility. It's like, look at what you're getting and consider the way that you're thinking in all those moments, and consider the way that you're acting in all those moments. And that's why you're getting everything that you're getting. And I know literally up until probably maybe like half a year ago, I had this mentality where it wasn't like a chronic problem, but I noticed that was kind of a moment where I stopped thinking that way. And I had this mentality where it was like things would happen to me, and I'd be like, that sucks that happened to me. And it like is a kind of a life-changing thing when you realize that you should be in control of the way you're thinking, and kind of having that constant practice of mindfulness at all times, because the way that you're thinking and the way that you're acting is always in control. You're in control of that. And that is completely what drives everything that happens to you in your life, you know?
I agree.
That, like, the law of attraction can kind of be twisted in all these like magical different directions where people are like, put vision boards on your wall and things just happen. But there's the other side of it where it's like, just take complete responsibility for your thoughts, because, you know, you're the only one who can change your life. And you mentioned something else in that kind of response where you can feel a little anxious or stressed at times when you're looking too far at the past or the future and just getting ahead of yourself in that way. One of the guys who talks about the law of attraction that I've been listening to, he talks about how almost everyone nowadays is making decisions about how they feel right now based on how they used to feel, which doesn't really make any sense. Like, why do you feel a certain way now based on something that used to happen to you? You know, and it's like a really hard thing to break that habit, but
well, I think it's a good habit to have sometimes, because, you know, like cake makes me feel good. So I'm like, when I really want to feel good, I can go and eat cake, and like that's going to instill the same good feeling. And I know that that's a practice that, you know, is not always good, but you know, it's if I want to have like a little bit of satisfaction, I can go and do that. And it's also like protective. So if I'm going to walk down that dark alley and it's like, I know in the past that I felt scared, and I feel scared because it's dark or there's predators or whatever, I'm not going to do that again, because that feeling came into me before I even walked down the alley. So there's a response or a reaction that's going to keep us safe. And, but oftentimes we're conditioned to like feel the same way to the same thing, and then there's no growth. And then if that thing starts to shift and evolve, or it goes away, or it comes in more intensely and we stay the same, it's like, where is the shift, or where can I where can I see more to this, or can I start to like dissolve it a little bit more in my life? It's hard to really articulate, but there are certain ways that we need to be reactive and have the same feeling. When we are presented with one thing or a feeling like anxiety, it's a good way to look at things. And then you can choose your reaction going forward based with this mindset of mindfulness or presence or just curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, like, when you started your practice of yoga and you did your teacher training, was there something that kind of drew you to yoga? I know just recently I've met a few girls who are yoga instructors in Toronto, because I'm pretty new to Toronto, and I think it seems to be a common theme where each of them say that they came to yoga at kind of a strange time in their life, and it kind of brought them a sense of control or a sense of peace where they could kind of I don't really know how to describe it. I don't know how to articulate it, but something like that. Like, there was a moment in time and they just found a lot of comfort in getting involved in that activity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I competed in gymnastics when I was a kid up until I was a teenager. And then I was coaching gymnastics, but I didn't do like anything physical, and I wasn't taking care of my physical body. I mean, I was coaching, but I was experiencing pain because you're lifting like little kids around all day. So physically I was looking for something that was helpful and supportive to my body, but also helped me just get embodied rather than supporting and coaching other people. I wanted to feel my own, and gymnastics is not a thing when you're an adult. There's just too much of me to throw around bars and floor. So I found when I took a yoga class, and I took hot yoga in the middle of winter, and so it was like this warm retreat. Like I think I passed out at the end. I was just so comfortable and so like beat out from an hour long probably vinyasa or hatha class. I can't remember. And I found the physical movements pretty easy. Like, it came naturally for me to do the asana. The only thing that wasn't so easy was I need to stay still. I'm so used to being in movement in the gym and moving around, locomoting around, and using like really, really like running at things. And then in yoga, it's like, okay, well, now you get to stand on one leg and hold it for 10 breaths and see how you fare. So I came to it just as like a way to get back to myself. Also a way to, it's hard to describe. I was with someone in college and I just like didn't really care to hang out with them anymore. I was like, and I had a job as well that I didn't really love alongside coaching. And then I would start skipping that job and like skipping meetings and going to yoga. And I just chose yoga more and more and more often as kind of an escape. I just like avoiding certain parts of my life, going to a hot yoga class or signing up for a half-day workshop or something. And then I was like, well, this is kind of cool. And I was coaching, so I felt really comfortable being in a group, felt really comfortable directing bodies. And I knew a lot about biomechanics and the way our bodies should like functionally move and the structure of our bodies, and especially kids. But I was like, okay, well, let's see if I could do this yoga teaching thing and bring it. Initially, my intention was to bring yoga into the gym that I was coaching, and with the competitive gymnasts, get them into a slower mindset and a more healing instead of pushing or working with what you got, because some of those girls, like, they'll never be able to do that one certain thing because their body's just not architecturally made to do that. And so a little more acceptance, especially with the preteen girls. So I typed into Google yoga teacher training. And the first thing to pop up, I clicked and registered. I didn't do any research. I was just like, okay, I'll do that one. I had no idea there's this like vast world of multiple styles and crazy teachers and like year-long programs and 2-week-long programs and in studio or abroad. And this one happened to be abroad, and it fired up my love for traveling. I had never traveled alone, and this one was like a month in Costa Rica, and I was like, okay, well, I could do that.
Oh, cool. Cool. Where was it in Costa Rica?
In Puerto Viejo. It was on the Caribbean coast, really close to Panama.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I lived in Costa Rica for a winter, and that's actually where I met Lauren Ruddick.
Yeah.
She was our neighbor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was living there with Andrew White, and I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
Yeah, he's like one of my best friends, and
he puts out the best videos of his garden.
Oh, I know. he's gonna hear this, and he's gonna be pumped that you're promoting the garden kids.
I'm wiggling my way slowly into like the lake surfing community just because I'm more hooked on surfing than I am yoga, or than I even remember being hooked on yoga. Like there's something like when the wind starts to shift, I just go like kind of crazy eyed. And so I've just started following a lot of people, and I believe I met Andrew. I met him at a screening of his film, Bloom Lagoon.
Oh yeah?
And
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I was there for that too.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I was there with him.
Yeah, so my boyfriend used to work for Surf the Greats, and then he's a good friend of Andrew's, and I just got introduced to Andrew, and I saw his film. I thought it was great. Now I follow him on Instagram and watch his garden grow.
Awesome. Yeah, he has an amazing garden. It's not just for show, like honestly.
No.
That's cool. Who's your boyfriend?
Matthew Weiler.
Okay.
Or on Facebook, he's Matty You.
Okay. I don't think I've met him, but
he kind of looks like Pablo Escobar.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. I can actually think of who he is, to be honest, if that's the description. At least Pablo Escobar.
Nacho Libre.
Yeah. Okay, I know the guy. I don't know him, but I think I've seen him around. So.
Oh yeah, and you've probably seen him on random posts and stuff. And
on Surf the Great stuff for sure.
Yeah, he's out coaching a couple lessons today in Hamilton.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I actually went surfing yesterday, and Andy told me to go up to a different spot, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to listen to you. And I went to another spot, and I thought it was so good. I kind of
Where did you go?
Laugh, but I kind of purposely send him videos when I go somewhere that he tells me is going to be bad and it's good, just so that I can kind of rub it in his face. And he sent me back these videos of the spot that he went to, and it was just insanely good. Like, it's like the promised land, honestly.
Was it like a big Point Break?
Yeah, you know them.
I know what it is. Yeah,
yeah, I'm not going to expose it.
We can't say it on air.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool because, I mean, for me personally, I kind of, like, I grew up, you wouldn't think so, but in London, Ontario, there's a ski hill in the city. So I grew up snowboarding like every single day, and I was obsessed with it, and I ended up doing pretty well with it. And that's how I met Andy, because he was in the same boat. We used to make a lot of videos and travel around to contests together, and he broke his spine and couldn't really do many things that involve actual physical impact anymore. So he basically started surfing, got obsessed with it, and now he's really good because obviously it's one of the best activities for his body, but he's just a guy who's a go-getter in general. So
yeah, he's always out on his longboard. I love it.
Yeah. He's out no matter what, even if they're baby waves that he can only ride on a longboard, which is why he's so good. But yeah.
And to be in London, you're really close to like all three lakes. You can get there anytime.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, yeah, living in Toronto now, I don't get out as often, which is, I like the London spots better too, to be honest, but I'm still surfing enough. But I'm obsessed with surfing too, and I wouldn't consider myself a very good surfer, but there's something about it where it's this constant challenge. But not only that, there's a lot of things where when it comes to sports similar to surfing, where like I use snowboarding as an example. Once you're like your late 20s, you're not going to get any better because you can't handle the falls that are required to learn new skills, you know? So you kind of hit a point where it's like just not worth it. You could try, but you're going to break bones like all the time. And surfing is something you can just like keep constantly improving. It's like a very slow mastery, and you have to really fall in love with the patience of it and realize that it's like, okay, I'll be pretty good in like 10 years, you know? Like,
well, only in 10 years if you get to surf like every other day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I had a friend in Mexico who said, if you haven't surfed in 2 weeks, you're not a surfer. So it's like, you lose it quick. And then your next session in, you're just like, oh my God, okay, here we go again. Like, let's get these muscles going. Let's start to read the wave better. All right, now I'm back. And then you stop and then it goes away.
Yeah, honestly, that's one thing I'm noticing at this spot at the because I'm cutting out.
A little bit.
Okay. At the spots where I've been surfing in Toronto, there's like a lot more paddling than a lot of the spots around London. A lot of the spots around London, they're kind of like point breaks because they're basically piers or point breaks.
Mm-hmm.
So for probably almost 2 years now, literally about probably almost 2 years, all my trips that I've done, I've gone to surf at point breaks in like warm places. Yeah, like I was in El Salvador in the fall. In the spring, it's all point breaks. And then I've been surfing lakes and it's all point breaks. So I had to like actually duck dive a ton and paddle like when I was out in Toronto the other week. And I lasted like 1 hour and then I had to go home and like go to bed like immediately.
Yeah, we were out a couple weeks ago in Burlington, and it was a beach break, and I couldn't even get past like the second line of whitewash. I almost cried on the beach. I was so frustrated. I was like, they're all back. How do they get there? Like, like I think I'm strong, and I don't have like a heavy longboard, and I was just so frustrated, and I just can't get past some of the breaks. Sometimes waves on the lake can be very heavy. Yeah. And, I'm also like, I would not consider myself a good surfer whatsoever. Like I can catch a wave, stand up at maybe for like 2 seconds, and I'm just out there to have fun and be a kid and whatever it is that I'm addicted to, but I'm not good. And we walked around this point because I was just so frustrated that Maddie came back and he was like, "What's up?" I was like, "I can't get past." So we walked and talked for a bit and ended up finding a little cove. And it was this lovely little right point. I was like, oh my God, where has this been all my life? And like, we could just jump off the point, paddle around it, catch one in. It was so nice.
That's awesome. So are you on a longboard?
Gems. I'm on like a fun board, a 7.2.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. I need to get something bigger like that. Then I have like a shorter one and a bigger one. I can catch waves anywhere.
Yeah. It's nice to have something like bigger than 8.6 or a 9 or something if you have the space for it, because you can catch anything on any time.
Yeah, I couldn't fit that in my car, so I'm not going to go that long. So
we kind of got off on a tangent about surfing.
Yeah, that's all right. This is all about tangents. It's better when these podcasts turn into just long tangents, That's how I want them to be like a mix of a podcast with just questions and a mix of like a Joe Rogan style where it's just literally a pointless conversation like the whole time,
If we wanted Joe Rogan style, we'll have to get super stoned.
Yeah, I know. Don't know if I could pull off a podcast in that state. I
can't form sentences. No.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I guess I'm kind of curious to learn more about the Muskoka Yoga Festival and how that came about. I know Lauren was telling me about someone else who was a co-founder, and he's like a lawyer or something. Mm-hmm. So was it you and him who partnered together and came up with the whole festival concept? Or?
Yeah, we had another friend who was in on the idea stage with us, and then she ended up moving. And so then it became just Corey and I. And Corey and I are the co-founders of it. We incorporated together and everything back in 2016. We met at a yoga festival. Corey and I, he was there just like helping out his friend at a kombucha booth. And I had no idea who he was. And he was just like this cheeky, tall guy who basically tried selling me on some like independent contractor agreements and stuff because he heard that I was a studio owner. I was like, no, man, like I'm good. I have all my legal work sorted out. Like I'm so small time. Like I don't need a lawyer. So we ended up chatting and he's like, where are you from? He's like, well, I'm actually from Muskoka. He's like, or Ontario, because this was out in Alberta. I'm from Ontario. And he's like, oh, where in Ontario? Muskoka. Oh, where in Muskoka? Bracebridge? Where in Bracebridge? And I was like, I'm just in town, like on the golf course. And he's like, no way, I'm in Kirby's Beach. And they're both like really well known in Bracebridge. We're like, shit, we have to hang out. And that was it. Like we didn't talk about a festival whatsoever. We just both, he has a cottage in Bracebridge and I was living in Bracebridge. So exchanged contact information, and hung out a few months later in summertime in Muskoka and just like hung out, chatted about the yoga festival that we went to. And kind of said like, yeah, it was great in this aspect, really great in this aspect. Like they could have improved here, or I didn't really have fun then. And, we're like, man, there's nothing like this in here. There's nothing like this in Ontario. Like, well, Muskoka's pretty unique, amazing, one of a kind. It's where everyone wants to go in the summer. why don't we try it? And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah, it was just, and I had no idea who this guy was.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's happened 2 years now, right?
Yeah, 2017, 2018.
Was it pretty small in the first year then, or did you guys still manage to make it pretty big? Yeah.
The first year was crazy. We had like 700 people in the park at one point. And for a first year small town community based yoga festival, I was just like, holy smokes. Like all my systems were set up for basically around 500 people. And so we looked really full. And of course the vendors were happy. The teachers were happy with class sizes. We were happy with ticket sales. And we were just so blown away that people found out about us and like believed in us enough to come. They sorted out their own transportation, their own accommodation, because we're not like a camping festival. And they just trusted it and thought it looked cool enough to spend a weekend with us.
That is really neat.
Yeah.
I've been kind of surprised. I guess I live like Queen West near Trinity Bellwoods in Toronto. And a lot of the people I meet in that neighborhood are into yoga. And it seems like from what I'm seeing, there's a huge yoga community in Toronto. And I would have never really guessed that, but I guess it makes sense. It's a huge city. There's a community for everything. Mm-hmm. And like, it just seems like the perfect opportunity to kind of bring everyone from that together, because everyone's probably just doing it kind of totally in a disconnected way and people don't really know each other. And
well, one of our marketing as well as community building, kind of principles is to gather as many unique kind of leads of their community in different varieties and different styles of yoga and meditation and wellness and fitness, even in music. And we pull from different pockets across the GTA, as well as over to like Prince Edward County, Kingston, Barrie, even in Collingwood here. And I believe we even had down to Hamilton, Niagara Falls. So we try and pull from these pockets, these communities. And from there, our teachers start to talk about the festival, and then they bring out their communities. And they are kind of, they're not associated with each other, but they don't work together in this capacity throughout the year. They know of each other through social media, maybe through retreats or trainings or the yoga show in Toronto, because it's just so big. But we gather all of them together and they all know each other. And then they realize that they're not in competition with each other when they come to the festival. They're not, trying to get those last 5 people for a retreat sign up. It's no, we're all here to celebrate. We're all here to be in community. We know each other from these online outlets. So like, let's be friends. And we put them all up in a hotel or a little lodge on the lake somewhere. And they form these new friendships, and then, they carpool the next year, and then they bring up more people with them, and it becomes much more of a family. And from there, it's like, you have no idea where these people are coming from. But like, we saw some of the entries online, and people were coming from like upstate New York and all the way from Sault Ste. Marie or Thunder Bay, like just for this festival, because, these teachers touch so many lives in their communities, and then their communities follow them here.
Wow. Okay. That's wild.
It's really cool.
So was this year a lot bigger than the first year?
Bigger by a few hundred more people.
Okay.
I actually I just upped the tent size and that's it. But all of the systems pretty much stayed the same because it worked the first year. And we had just over 1,000 people.
So one thing that when it comes to the yoga community, that's such an expanding market and such a growing kind of area of interest in general that, in my mind, there's no need for competition because it's all just growing, Mm-hmm. It's good for everyone if more people are doing yoga and more people are going out to even other people's yoga classes, Mm-hmm. But I've just kind of been really interested in that whole approach to everything, because that kind of is a very yogi approach to life in general, to just like be accepting and loving and helping everyone out who helps you. But a guy who for the first half of his career, he literally just helped people out every single day. Like he worked probably like more hours than any of my other friends, and he was making not much money, but he just helped everyone all the time. And he was just investing in all these relationships that are all just paying off in huge ways now. And it's funny, there's such an animosity in certain like areas, there's just competition, and everyone feels like they need to compete with other people. And
well, especially when you dive into the surf community in such a small, there's only so many spots that work. And then you have people who have been surfing it for 20 plus years. And then you have people who have been surfing it for 5 and still kind of claim ownership. And then you have this influx of people who love surfing abroad and figure out that they can do it in their home. So it's of course there's competition because there's limited kind of resources. I mean, we could start to discover new points, but in other areas, I can see why competition is just silly. It's absolutely silly, especially with yoga. If there were more yoga studios than Tim Hortons or more yoga studios than whatever else that, it gathers people, I think yoga is the best thing to expand and to grow and to duplicate and to emulate and to do whatever you have to do more of it, because it's contributing to people's well-being physically, mentally, socially. Who knows how else it spawns off to benefit these practitioners, let alone the people who make it their business.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, we live in an era where, it's hard to keep your head screwed on straight. There's just so much stimulation and social media and everything. And mindfulness and mental health tools are going to be top of mind, and they really should be, because those things aren't going away for a long time, I don't think. But yeah, it's interesting. One thing, this is kind of off topic, but one thing I've been wanting to write an article about. So I guess I didn't even really introduce what my website kind of started out as. So I basically just kind of started writing stuff kind of spontaneously. Mm-hmm. Basically, I got feedback from a job posting that I really wanted. And they were like, man, I was newly out of school. So I literally had nothing but a degree. But they gave me feedback. They're like, man, you got to just start doing things on your own to show that you're a good candidate and that you're capable of doing all these things. So I was like, I'm just going to write. And then it just kind of turned into, I'm just going to make a website, and then I'm just going to submit articles to bigger websites. And then I'm going to work for a marketing agency and do a bunch of writing stuff. And it's just all kind of came from there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've been really playing with this topic of kind of taking control of your own mindset, but accepting full responsibility for it. Because there's so much kind of anxiety and mental distress out there, but I see a lot of people who don't really take ownership for their own situation. And that kind of sounds harsh, because I don't really want to write an article just calling everyone out in a harsh way. But it's there's so many people who kind of sit around stressed and anxious, and they talk about it and they make posts about it and they kind of complain about it and they use it as an excuse. But then they just sit on Instagram all day long. And it's that is making you feel shittier. Mm-hmm. That. You can't sit around and expect to use your anxiety as an excuse if you're willing to just constantly feed it, And I think you need to embrace things like mindfulness. And mindfulness is fully just taking control of the way you're letting things impact your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, some of those people, they need a big interrupt in order to realize that they're stuck in a particular pattern or a particular habit that isn't contributing to their well-being or their health in any way, shape, or form. They need an interrupt, like a health crisis or, someone leaving their lives or whatever it is, like a job loss, something substantial for them to wake up a little. Which sucks for those people that they have to wait that long to get interrupted. But then there's also you can also be the interruption for yourself. So you can be at cause for everything in your life, or like you say, you can be responsible. I just word it differently. I'm always causing something in my life. I'm always practicing something, and that practice in turn results in something. So I'm at cause. And if I'm on Instagram comparing myself, getting massive FOMO, then obviously I'm causing anxiety. I'm causing a disconnection to myself. So then I can interrupt that pattern, and you have to catch yourself. You have to, I don't know, maybe set an alarm on your phone, or you have to have specific times when you go on it, or specific people that you hang out with that distract you away from the debilitating habits. in order to change your mind, you have to change the way you respond to the world. It's something that we play with a lot I teach for a company down in the States called Real Evolution Yoga. And Real Evolution Yoga is about being real. So like being straight up with our bodies, straight up with the people around us, our communities, our families, our relationships, and being straight up with how we talk to ourselves, the conversations we have within our head, and being super straightforward with ourselves all the time. And you get curious about, well, I just spent 3 hours on my phone. How do I feel? And get curious. Be real with how you feel. Well, I feel a little anxious. And then after that, it's okay. I'm going to persevere and put down the phone, persevere, move forward without my phone, because the phone is the thing that's causing us whatever, and our choice in not putting down the phone. And then after that, it's okay. It is what it is. We've created this already. Now we can create what's next. So what's next? And whatever is next is obviously, hopefully, contributing to your well-being and contributing to your peace, contributing to your balance, your vitality. And so those principles always keep me in check. That's for sure. Curiosity, get real, like let it go. It is what it is. And then create what's next. I'm the ultimate creator of whatever happens in my mind and whatever happens in my material world.
Mm-hmm. And that basically is the law of attraction right there. Like,
yeah,
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. I find though the chaos comes from like the random blips on the radar as you travel throughout your day. Cause like I can't be at cause for traffic. I can't be at cause for weather or random conversations that people throw at me, but I'm consistently at cause for my response.
Yeah, exactly. You can choose whether to react or whether to respond. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard choice sometimes.
Totally.
You said it's called Real Evolution Yoga?
Yeah. So we call it Real Yoga, Real Evolution, and it's done by real people. We drop the guru model. There's no like one teacher. We have tons of inspiration from tons of different lineages, and we bring it all in kind of like an interdisciplinary practice. And we do one retreat a year. It's it. And
that's
it's
awesome.
Coming up next week, actually. I'm off to California.
Where in California is it?
San Luis Obispo. It's central California. It's like 2 hours north of LA, 2 hours south of San Fran. And it's been ongoing now for, I think this is the sixth or seventh year. Sometimes we spawn off and do a weekend. Like we just did a weekend in August in Colorado, which was really fun. Last year we did one in New York. It just depends on where the community is mostly needing it. Because there's so many people that's come to the retreat that they start asking for one in their area.
Wow. Okay, cool. That seems like a really neat project to be involved with.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I just said yes. I had a teacher in Costa Rica, actually. I brought a retreat down to Costa Rica, and he was teaching. He owned the retreat center, and I was just blown away by his teaching. I was like, holy smokes. I'm like, that's yoga. It's like, that's how I want to teach. And so I asked him how to do it. Oh, are we back?
Yeah.
Oh, it just paused on me for a second. I said that I asked him how to do it, and he gave me the Real Evolution Yoga info. And then from there, I assisted one of their retreats, and then they asked me to become a teacher for them. And I've been teaching for them now as their like lead teacher for 3 years.
That's really, I think a lot of people really admire the life of being a traveling yoga teacher, because there's...
Oh, you are very robot-y there.
Yeah. Did I cut out entirely? I wonder.
Yeah, the life of a traveling yoga teacher.
I think a lot of people it's just a cool lifestyle, because a lot of people don't get to look forward to those things in their work at the very least.
Yeah, it's a very fortunate kind of privileged opportunity to do so. And a lot of people try, and it's tricky to get into it because you have to have the enrollment. You have to have people who are your sales force. Like at the end of the day, it is a business, and it is, it's advertising, it's marketing, and it's crunching spreadsheets and all of that mundane stuff that yoga teachers probably hate. But then you get this huge wealth of expression and experience and connection that like it only drives the next and the next and the next, and until you know that you can just advertise it and it fills, and it's this wonderful, beautiful monster.
So I'm assuming that the way things are going for you now, you're probably going to stick to the entrepreneur life and keeping your own boss. I can't imagine you would want to go back to anything else.
When I moved to Collingwood, I thought I would be expanding the festival here, and I was approached by a person, and then another just connection kind of piqued my curiosity about doing a Collingwood Yoga Festival. And it turns out I don't have the energy to. I keep thinking about it. I keep going like, oh, well, I just need to contact this person or reach out to this facility or these vendors. And like, when you just can't push the button, like something's like pulling my hand away from it. Yeah. And I guess I moved to Collingwood to settle. I've always been on the move. I've been traveling a lot for a few years, and I've never had my own place. So I finally have my own place, and I settle and figure out what's next. It's time to like marinate in all that I've done and see what spawns from it. I still have my regular haunts of this California retreat, the festival, but I still have a lot of space to do more. So we'll see what happens next. Cool. I don't think I can work for anyone else.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good note to end on then.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for being a guest, Ashley. I'll probably see you surfing at some point.
Yeah, more than likely. Maybe at one certain secret spot that shall not be mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
So silly.
Hey guys, if you like this episode, please go and subscribe on iTunes or SoundCloud. Just as a heads up, I am launching a resources page on my website in the next few weeks. It's going to have a lot of different mindfulness tools, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.